Welcome to the Critical Digital Education Research Microcast. The Critical Educational Research Group, or CDER for short, is a group of researchers based at the University of Oxford who carry out research on education and technology from a critical yet always research-informed perspective. My name is Carlo Perrotta and I'm a member of CDER. More information about us can be found on the website of the University of Oxford's Department of Education. I'm here today with Professor Matthias De Cupere. Matthias is Professor of School Development and Governance at Zurich University of Teacher Education. Matthias, it's great to have you here.
Hello, Carlo. Very nice to be here in this talk with you.
Yes, indeed. Matthias and I have known each other for a few years. And we've been working together on a couple of projects. We have actually a paper that it's been in the making for quite some time, right, Matthias? And I think it's coming out soon. Hopefully, will be out by the time this microcast is available. And I thought this might be a good opportunity to have a bit of a chat about the paper, about the article, and hopefully this will be of interest to people who follows us, who follow the Critical Digital Education Research Group, the CDR group at Oxford, and also people who follow are interested in the sort of work that Matthias and I and others are doing in this space. So around digital education, governance, technology, critical edtech studies, right, Matthias?
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Approximately a year and a half, 2 years ago, right, we started looking for new ways to make sense of these issues, especially in light of the big upsurge, the big boom, right, of generative AI.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we all, and not only both of us, but everyone in this community or everyone interested in the critical studies of educational technologies, that all of us feel that this moment in time is probably a bit different than what we have seen over the last years or decades, which technology has become so fast surrounding us everywhere, like in every aspect of educational life. So I think that would be a first aspect that makes it a bit distinctive.
Yeah, maybe this is the right time to actually introduce the title of the paper: Atmospheric Analytics, Situated Encounters in the Age of AI. And that kind of gives away the big reveal, right? That gives away the key concept. We are talking about atmospheres. We are claiming that we are going through an atmosphere. And what do we mean by atmosphere? I mean, it's something that is meteorological. It's something that is affective. It's something that exists in a cloud, so to speak. Okay, but it unfolds situationally. It lands right in schools, because that's what we're talking about, that there is something about this phenomenon which is atmospheric and is unfolding situationally in workplaces, hospitals, households, and of course schools, leading to responses like anxiety, a sense of being overwhelmed, excitement, curiosity, and these vague perceptions of open-ended potentials. So let's try and explain a bit more. What do we mean by atmosphere, Matthias?
That is the $1 million question, I guess.
Yes.
And I think it's a very good question. It's a bit of a fuzzy concept, atmosphere, but I think we intentionally used it as a fuzzy concept. I think when we have started reading, when we have started discussing about this Gen AI moment, how it started to unfold, I think we both had the feeling that something's going on here, in the sense of what we already discussed, like it seems to be a bit different. And equally, I think we both had the feeling like this is almost akin or almost like a wave that is building up, like a tsunami. And the moment where we started the discussion that then led to this paper, I think we both very much felt like something's going to happen or something is about to happen. And for that, and this is part of the subtitle of the paper, and the situational, for this we have used the concept of the situation, a situation not in or not only in the daily sense of speaking about there's different kind of situations in or during the course of a day, but much more in the strong sense of the word, where, for instance, as Laurent Berlant has said, that the police says we have a situation here when they try to try to catch a thief or whatever, or to stop your car and you need to step out and the police is saying to you, we have a situation, meaning that something's going on that is not easily capturable in normal terms, or something that is going on with which we don't really know what to do. And we use the term situation, or we use the term atmospheres to actually designate this tsunami kind of wave, like something is going to roll over us, something is going to happen to us. And we all feel because of that, like we're in a certain type of situation. And as educational researchers or empirical educational researchers who are then often in schools, and the talk of the town back then was always, and still is, like AI, what are we going to do with this? How will it impact or change education? Like everyone is feeling it. And it is, I think, this sense that everyone is feeling that something is already happening, but a lot more too, that something is about to happen, like the tsunami starting to wash over you, that led us to be interested in this notion of an atmosphere, an AI-induced atmosphere in the case of this paper, that starts to make landfall or is in the process of approaching schools back then. Now it is already in schools, but back then when we started about thinking about this paper, that we really had this feeling like, oh, the concept of an atmosphere might be a very interesting one. And in that sense, you already mentioned, Carlo, the meteorological kind of analogy that we draw on. I think if we talk about meteorological atmospheres, we can talk about pressure, we can talk about wind, we can talk about rainfall, we can talk about all these things. What they all have in common is that you cannot not relate to them. Like you can hate the rain or you can love it, but you need to undertake action in order to be able to behave in such a kind of environment. If it storms, you need more than an umbrella. If it just rains, you might just have a light raincoat. If there's strong winds, you can build a good house, whatever. But like meteorological conditions, which are atmospheric, they necessitate that we act upon that. And I think this is equally what we have tried to use and play with a bit in this paper, is this idea not only like we're in an atmosphere, so it presses on us, it envelops us, but equally we need to relate to that.
We are trying to suggest new ways to conceptualize and to study how this technology is landing in education. It's not just or no longer simply a matter of adoption, like of the teachers and students taking up or not taking up generative AI and these technologies, because we are talking about a technology that promises, and to an extent is already beginning to fulfill that promise, to be ubiquitous, to be invisible, to be integrated in every tool, in every platform, in every organizational process and workflow. Quite literally, it wants to be like the air we breathe, right? And of course, this also means that generative AI is a way of attaching itself to practices, right? To the things that people do. Complex practices like knowledge-intensive ones, but also very mundane, very habitual, kind of the everyday stuff.
I think the notion of attachment is a very important one. Maybe it's a notion that we kind of have lost to really think with or think through this notion of attachment. I think, as you say very rightly, this technology tries to attach itself to our lives, sometimes very aggressively and with a lot of convincing rhetorics, which of course leads to the other side of the coin, which is that a lot of people start to attach themselves to that technology. It's not only the technology trying to attach itself to human actors, it's equally the other way around. It's like people trying to attach to them or seeking to find ways to live with the technology or not live with the technology, do work more productively, do more efficient schooling. This kind of things are, I think, something that the concept of attachment is very good in not saying or not clarifying how that happens exactly, but it opens up like empirical questions like how do people attach themselves to technologies? How technologies are attaching themselves not only to humans, but equally to situations, to that middle level, and how that middle level is more and more influenced. So not only in the sense, again, of being more effective, efficient, but equally like how do people, and we know a lot like from discussions about the digital backlash, but equally like a lot of evidence that is starting to pop up that actually a lot of young people, or that the young generation is the generation that is most critical towards AI, because they very much see the potential repercussions for this in their later professional life and actually don't want to attach to that or don't want to attach to that too much. So I think we should equally very much in how we disentangle this phenomenon empirically, look at how people try to shield themselves from these technologies, how they try to find shelter from those kind of technologies.
Absolutely. There are also some pitfalls. I was rereading actually recently Kate Crawford's work about infrastructure, the AI infrastructure, and she makes a very important point, in my opinion, that the cloud infrastructure is not really in the cloud. It's a terrestrial infrastructure. It's not something that exists in the air. It's not something that it's up there, but it's on the ground, in the ground, quite literally. It's extractive, it's material, it's problematic in all sorts of ways. So there is that tension, right? Always when we talk about atmospheres and the fact that we might end up or give the impression perhaps that we are referring to something that exists in this sort of rarefied dimension, which is a risk, right? Something that I believe we are aware of. We are acknowledging that. But I also wanted to pick your brain on how that particular tension might be navigated and maybe resolved.
Yeah, that's a very good question and a very good point. And I think in the paper, we very much try to take into account this level of infrastructure. But I think seeing it as a noun is a bit of the problem, because then we just think it's the material things or only the material things. I think we're better off seeing it as a verb or as a process. So to talk about infrastructuring or infrastructuralization, because these kind of things are, as you say, they're very much material. But I think it would be wrong, or it would be dangerous if we only say that they are material. I think the crux of the entire paper is to bring things together, and of course, not seeing or not trying to make the move to say that an atmosphere is something hanging around us and hence intangible and hence ungraspable. It's rather the other way around. It's because it's around us that it needs to be material. Otherwise, it wouldn't be around us. It's because it is around us that we need to relate to it. And I think there's not a singular principal or teacher that I have talked with in the last weeks and months who would say that AI is something in or of the clouds. I mean, of course, in the colloquial sense of the words, yes, but not in the sense that these things are not material. Like, they are so much impacting. To give a very stupid example, but like the hardware that schools are using in schools to teach, to instruct, a lot of stuff doesn't work anymore, needs to be updated. It's about very material questions like which type of infrastructure are we going to subscribe to? Where will the data flow? Like, will data flow outwards of schools, outwards of national contexts or not? I think these are hyper material questions, which we actually try to capture with that notion of atmosphere too.
All right. Okay. Last question, Matthias. We talk about atmospheric analytics, right? And this is an interesting word that we use. So I guess the clarification is maybe needed. It might help somebody like, for example, a student coming to grips, trying to make sense of this paper. So we are certainly not talking about analytics in the sense of, say, learning analytics, which is a bit of another term that is quite popular in the sort of educational discourse. We are using it as an alternative framing for theory, and obviously this has important methodological implications. I believe it was Michel Foucault who introduced the concept of analytics of power to develop a more dynamic framework. There was not just a theory of power, but it also had some important implications in terms of how we study power empirically, methodologically. And I suppose we are trying something similar.
I think it's great you mentioned Foucault. It's always the hidden hero behind a lot of our thinking, I guess. I am always very much inspired by the quotes of Foucault, where he's talking about critique or the critical attitude, and where he says this is about the art of not being governed in this way, at this or at that cost. So this is a very practical way to critique, but it's a very practical way to analytics too, because what this tries to do, or what we try to do, I think, with this paper, is to give a set of optics, give a particular way looking empirically at situations that are unfolding nowadays. So I think the contrast with a word like learning analytics, which is trying to capture things that a student is doing when he or she is working on a screen or with a computer. I don't think we try to capture in that sense of the words. I think what we try to do instead of capturing is looking what things are doing with and through AI and use technologies. And we have a couple of concepts that we propose in the paper, which is like density, saturation, viscosity. These are like three propositions that we are doing, not with the idea of this is the only way you can look at atmospheric conditions, but rather the other way around. It's like an invitation to direct a research case to that middle, to that being in medias res. The good word would maybe be a heuristic toolbox. Like it's a way where we have put, or in the paper, we have put a couple of tools in that. It's for now, or now it's up to the reader to develop that further, or not to develop that further, of course, but our idea is not to say this is the way to look and not any other way. So I think what we're very much into is trying to come like by means of conclusion, or in this paper, our conclusion is like what these optics, what this way of looking allows for, or should ideally allow for, is to answer the question, are these technologies or these technology-induced atmospheres, are they making our lives better or not? Are they making education better or not? Are we wanting to be governed in the way we are at this or that cost, as Foucault would ask the question?
And with that, I think we can wrap it up. Matthias, it was an absolute pleasure to work with you on this paper.
Thanks a lot for having me here.